Up next, we have our last panel discussion for the day on advancing security with emerging technologies. Let's start by introducing our eminent moderator, Mr. Eric Kobia, Cybersecurity Specialist, a government entity, Mr. Bravine Otieno, Country CIO DB Schenker, Mr. Seun Owoeye, Chief Operating Officer, Integrated Payment Services Limited, Ms. Grace Vihenda, Innovation Hub Leader, Business Development and Strategy, Kenya Airways, Ms. Emma, Assistant Director ICT, Kitui County Government. Over to you, Eric, to moderate this wonderful panel, and let's start the discussion. All right, we do have a couple of people from the panel out here. Welcome to the East Africa Summit.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Right,
Hi.
Eric,
Yes, I'm here.
we
Sorry.
can we
Sorry.
can go ahead and start. I had introduced all of y'all. I'm not too sure if y'all heard me giving out the introduction. If y'all did, we can go ahead and start panel discussion.
Okay. Thank you so much, Roga, for the
My
invitation
my
for the
pleasure.
introduction. And good evening to all the panelists. Today's panel.
Good
As
evening.
yes, sure. Good evening, Praveen, Sion, and Grace, and Emma.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, and
Hi.
Philip also. Yeah. Hi. Okay. Now, my name is Eric Kobia, as you've been told. And I am a cybersecurity analyst and technological researcher from Communications Authority of Kenya. And for me, basically, I work as in a regulatory institution where we do regulate the Kenyan cyberspace. And yes, so but before we continue, maybe I can say something on our today's topic of discussion. There's some noise. There's some noise. I don't know from where. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
You can hear some noise. I don't know. Oh yeah, I think he has muted. Yeah. Okay. Now we can continue. So I can say this that the high level of dependency on technology and internet today has resulted in new business models and revenue streams for organizations. But also with this comes new gaps in opportunities in for cyber attackers to exploit. As this digitization accelerates, it is important that we keep up with technological advancement. It is also important to stay on top of technological advancement because we are in a digital world, and most of the business now. Sorry, there's so much noise. I don't know from where. Can we try and mute our mics here? Yeah. There's silence now. Okay. Emma, thank you so much. I think it was coming from your side. Also, can I continue?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I was saying, as digitization accelerates, it is important that we keep up with the technological advancements. And it is important that to stay on top of technological advancement because we are in a digital world and the business world is now digital. Technology is always changing, and as it changes, we need to know the current cyber attacks to deal with. Also, for us to be relevant, we need to know the new technologies that are coming in and how to enhance security in our businesses. And because in case of a breach, your customers can lose faith in your business at a glance. So in this, I take this opportunity to invite our first panelist today, Miss Emma Ngute Kimwemwe, who is the Assistant Director for ICT from Kitui County Government in Kenya. Kimwemwe, welcome, and may I ask you kindly, you talk to this panel and tell us what new developments in technology should the county governments adapt or is looking to adapt to improve cybersecurity? Welcome and share with us your thoughts, Madam.
Thank you, Eric. Hi, everyone. I'm
Hi.
coming live from this remote part of Kenya, Kitui. It's a handship area, but we are connected by the new technology. Technology is everywhere. And thank you for the question. I think the most important thing is with the county governments, and not even the county governments, but the public sector, to be precise. The new developments they should be looking at with the new technology. First is to get a fast with the technology. Then they should invest first on the people to make the people aware of the new technologies which are there, to educate people on the new technologies which are coming with the new threats so that people can know how to mitigate those threats. Secondly, the processes. There should be the county and the public sector in large, they should establish clear processes of improving the security which comes with the new technology. Because with the new technology comes with threats. Then, of importance, they should also embrace technology. With cybersecurity, the new technology will help in mitigating the threats which are there. So, public sector should move with the market and embrace the new technology. Then they should also train on cybersecurity, should have professionals, not just educating the employees, but training professionals who will be able to counter these threats. Like if there's a threat in the cloud, what will you have to, if you don't have a professional to deal with that, then you'll be having those. And then lastly, I think they should, as government entities, we should be able to share the threat intelligence with other government entities. Thank you, Eric.
Wow. Thank you so much, Emma, for that insightful discussion and your points. We got you clearly. So now I go to our second panelist today, Mr. Bravine Otieno. And he is the country CIO for DB Schenker. And my first question to you is, in your opinion, how has the new technologies affected cybersecurity, especially in the public sector? Kindly welcome and share with us your ideas.
Thank you very much, Eric, for having me. Thank you all for your audience. Very well. Sufficing to say that, you see, the world has changed, and the world has changed in a very significant way, primarily because of information technology revolution, which is driven by what I'd call a globalization engine, that perhaps started in the late 20th century. And it has changed the world irreversibly. And of course, we can allude this irreversible change to things such as what we call instant connectivity and some deepening interdependence, both of which are good to us and of course, are laden with risks. You see, as a human species, we are inbuilt, or we have an inkling to connect with others, maybe to communicate, to share our stories, to create a community in essence. What we are doing today is an example. And you see, today the internet also enables us to do that in ways that we could never have imagined before. And of course, we have many technologies. Rather, these technologies are perhaps developed maybe or perhaps as a necessity, or by the growing need for research, or even through the railing tides of tech revolution. And thus we have the word emerging technologies. And I could mention a few. Take, for instance, artificial intelligence and machine learning, synthetic biology, hybrid cloud deployments, which today is a hot topic in Kenya, of course, with the entrance of AWS and Google. Other emerging technologies as predictive defense or predictive analytics that is used by many governments to, as a security measure, whether national or international. Information of things, virtual reality and augmented reality, 5G network, and many other technologies. You see, these things have made life easier, have made research interesting, and have tremendously contributed to the development of many sectors in our economy and economies world over, and also in security and then whatnot. So, but there are many risks as well involved. I think the previous presenter talked about increased cyber attacks and cited something in Thailand, the Thailand port. And of course, this are some of the risks that come with emerging technologies and place end users at a very awkward position. And of course, other risks like the crossing of ethical lines. I could cite, for instance, the Golden Shield project, which was a predictive defense or predictive analytics technology or a surveillance project in China that was aimed at, enhancing the national security of the country. So what will happen? They will collect data in its, in its droves, and of course, you know what big data involves at times, infringement of privacy. So it makes us draw a very thin line between on ethical issues, and of course that also brings into mind the aspect of privacy. We just recently passed the privacy and data protection laws in Kenya. So, but if you come to think of it, for the end users, privacy is actually dead. And may it rest in peace. Because clearly innovation at times is always ahead of some of these regulations. And while it's okay for innovation to come or go ahead of regulations rather than regulations going ahead of innovations, it I would say it places end users, it places users generally at very awkward positions. Nevertheless, there are many benefits that are to be gleaned by these emerging technologies. But this, together with other issues, are what essentially orbits around lives of users world over. Thank you, Eric.
Wow. This is interesting. Thank you so much, Mr. Bravin, for such an insightful session. I think we can go to our third panelist, Mr. Seun Owoeye, the Chief Operating Officer, Integrated Payment Services Limited. And welcome, Mr. Seun. And please tell us, what are the emerging cybersecurity threats in the financial services and how can they be mitigated? Welcome, sir.
All right. Thank you very much, Eric. I hope I'm not going to find you for pronouncing my name in a different way. So good evening, everyone. My name is Seun Owoeye. I'm a Nigerian, and I must say I actually bring perspective from West Africa experience as well. And I think it's a delight to also be on this panel. So basically, I'm going to be speaking around the emerging threats we've actually seen in the financial service space, and I'll give you a big background in a few minutes around what I do at IPSL. So basically, IPSL is a real-time payment services company of the Kenya Bankers Association. Basically, what we do is to facilitate, instant payment across different banks. And what we've seen from the COVID-19 outcome of the COVID-19 pandemic is we've seen rise and in the usage of a digital platform across banks. We've seen rise in the e-commerce transaction. We've seen rise in usage of digital platform to actually facilitate real-time payments across different institutions. And over and above that, in the last 1 or 2 years, we've also seen about 60% or above, in social engineering due to the shift into this in usage of this digital platform to facilitate financial transactions. Now, this shift by consumers have actually created, new trend in terms of cyber threats. It has actually created new trends in terms of the way fraudsters and different threat actors have actually been using social engineering to actually get people's details, get into their bank accounts and all that. So we've actually, as we're seeing a surge in the usage of digital platforms to perform and initialize financial transactions, we've also seen the resultant effects in the increase in people doing a lot of social engineering on people, either money wallet or bank accounts and all that. So basically, in the last couple of, I think in the last 1 year post-COVID, one of the biggest challenge we've actually seen in the financial service space is actually overtaking of bank accounts and SIM swaps. And this has actually resulted in the rate at which social engineering has actually skyrocketed because of the shifts in the usage of mobile phones, the usage of mobile banking apps, in the usage of progressive web applications, and the usage of digital channels across banks. And this ultimately has also led to various forms of identity theft. We've seen cases where a lot of banks will say fraudsters will call their consumers, try to get, con them as if they are bank staff, and get all their details, and they are able to actually get and infiltrate into their bank accounts and move money in using fast rails. So these are some of the trends we've actually seen. So identity theft and social engineering are some of the new cybersecurity threats we've seen in the financial service space. Now, in terms of data breaches as well, we all know that financial service space is actually an ecosystem that facilitates and carries a lot of data in terms of and sensitive data, so to say, in terms of your account balances, account name, your last detailed transaction and all that. And all these are actually tied to a lifeline and hand-hand, income of every consumer. So we've actually seen a lot of data breaches in the last, 1 year or 2 year post-COVID era due to the significant shift in the usage of banking digital platforms. And I must also say it's also important to also, categorize what we call misinformation as part of the critical piece and threats we've also seen in the financial services industry. A lot of consumers have actually been manipulated. There have been a lot of phishing attempts, a lot of phishing attacks to be able to actually get get people, conned into going into fictitious websites to put in their account name, their password, and all that, all in the name of actually getting their information. So these are some of the threats we have actually seen in the last 1 or 2 years post-COVID era, and they're actually an outcome of what we've also seen in the significant shift in the usage of digital platforms for banking services. That will be my submission for now. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Seun Owoeye. I think I'm getting it right now. Did I?
Oh yeah, correct.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing about the challenges that you're facing in the fintech industry in Nigeria. And the good thing I like about cybersecurity is that it's so universal, that the kind of challenges you're facing in Nigeria are the same challenges that you're facing here in Kenya. Exactly as you mentioned. Everything you mentioned about social engineering, the SIM swap, the fraud and everything else. Those are the same challenges we are facing here in Kenya. And I think we can even talk more before the end of this session. Okay, now I jump to our fourth panelist, Miss Grace Vihenda, who is the Innovation Hub Lead Business Development Strategy from Kenya Airways. Welcome so much, Madam Vihenda. And please, can you tell us, how can institutions leverage on open innovation to develop cybersecurity solutions? Welcome and share with us.
All right, thank you very much, Eric, and my fellow panelists. I'm Grace Vihenda, just like Erica said, from Kenya Airways. I lead the corporate innovation programs and the open innovation programs. And I'm really glad to respond to the question that you have posed, Eric, on open innovation. So I'll begin first by explaining what open innovation is. And this really is a model of innovation where a company promotes a lot of collaboration and is looking for solutions. And so this collaboration is with people and organizations outside of the company. Traditional innovation or closed innovation is where you're actually utilizing your own staff and your own people to come up with solutions. And so now open innovation just means you really open yourself up to solutions and information and knowledge from outside of the organization. So that can be through information from your customers. You could collaborate with universities. You could look up published patents. You could be working with a competition, which is something that a lot of companies are usually not willing to do. But your competitors can be a very good source of information to help you coming up with a solution. And also external agencies as well as the general public. The general public, depending on the kind of space that you're in, can also be harnessed as part of your open innovation program. So how do you do this? Number one, you can initiate innovation challenges. I'm sure you've seen some companies already doing that, or probably yourself, you've already done that. So you can initiate an innovation challenge where you ask students to help solve around your issues, or doing a hackathon where they try and hack into your system, and if they can, then it means you are able to identify loopholes. Or you can work with an innovation hub like ours, and there are many others out there. And then the innovation hub in this case can help you get a proper structure without you having setting up from scratch your own innovation design challenge. An innovation hub can help you to do that, because usually it's structured already to be able to support you with that. You can also do focus groups, and these focus groups can be for your customers, for the general public, or whoever you feel has the information that you require, including universities. And then you can also do joint research initiatives. And so here, if you're open to working with your competitors, that really is a good place to start, because as competitors, you can decide to create solutions for the industry. I don't necessarily for yourself. Like the very good example that Sean used around banks and mobile technology being hacked. So as industry players, you can come together and say, we want to do an open innovation around getting a solution for the industry. It's a solution for us. So in general, that is what open innovation is, and how an institution can embrace open innovation. Thank you, Eric.
Wow. Oh, thank you so much, Grace, for that insightful sharing of ideas. We keep learning. We keep learning every moment. Yeah, sure. In our next round, we get back to Miss Emma once again, and she is going to tell us, in your opinion, how has the new technologies affected cybersecurity, especially in the public sector? Welcome, Miss Emma.
Thank you. With new technology comes the new threats, new challenges, new governance. And I will not talk much about the general challenges, because I think Sean has discussed them. But when you look at the public sector, there is a lot of bureaucracy. How you get things done, the delays. So you get like getting the challenges done with immediately. That is a major challenge. The new technology, there are those new threats. They come with the new budgets, new investments, data privacy, ethical issues, and all those to deal with in the public sector. It's really a challenge, because you get that you have to have approved budgets run. Now we are dealing with 2023 budget, 2022-2023. If a new challenges comes here in the between, what will I be able to do? I don't have a budget for that. It has to go through all that process to get approved. By the time it's getting approved, you get the challenge has already been overtaken by a defense. There's another new challenge.
Yeah.
Now we are there with the attacks. With that, even with government, the policies, is there a policy for this? There is no policy, because we are talking of the new tech, which we are not overseen. So there is no policy of being asked, is it there in the policy? You are like, no. Then what do you go ahead and do? You also get that there's a lot of volume of the attacks. The government, you will not be able to deal with them. Then keeping the data privacy, what are you going to do about it? Then even the personnel in government, you find it's not that embraced like you get in the private sector. So those are the challenges we are getting. And then you find it is not as easy to deal with the new tech, because with the new tech, when it comes to the new threats, in the government sector, we are really strained. Thank you, Eric.
Wow, thank you so much, Mrs. Emma, for sharing your insights. And with speed, again, we move to our panelists too for the second question. Mr. Bravine, again, I come to you, and I am asking, what is the role and place of end users in the crossroads of emerging technologies and security? Please share with us.
I believe you meant to ask, in my opinion, how emerging
Yes.
technologies are shaping and reshaping our security landscape.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Sure, sure.
well, I think one thing that is coming out clearly from our discussions with the eminent panelists, and of course in other sessions that we have had, is that in spite of the risks, technology or innovation is good for us. It's an important facet of our lives. I love someone saying that technology is a layer without which you're literally dead. And of course, we only need to come up with mechanisms, as it were, to mitigate some of these risks that may arise. And of course, at times we pay too hefty a fine for these risks. And perhaps I'd begin by sharing a little story about an organization, which I will not mention for now. So, some savvy cyber criminals who were targeting a certain organization, and of course, there appeared to have been no way for them to penetrate and execute an attack on them, on their environment. So what they did, they advertised for some positions to attract employees from this very organization. And just to make it look very serious, they took them through a very rigorous process with many rounds of interviews, of course, until finally they sent an offer letter to these employees. Of course, some of them, this was done through mail, and some of them opened the link and an attachment, which was downloaded, of course, in their work environment, and some from home, of course, in their home network. And that is how these cyber criminals penetrated their environment, and they were able to execute an attack on them. You see, there's of course an increasing need for safe spaces, and with emerging technologies there has been also a need to beef or buffer up cybersecurity measures. So I think for us to create safe spaces, we need to first of all relook at the mechanisms that we have in place to detect and to prevent common execution tactics, techniques, and procedures. For instance, just having an up-to-date antivirus solution or an endpoint detection and response capabilities, which would allow your security team to identify and even prevent a malicious code from execution. Also having more like a control and monitoring of privilege accesses, to some of your systems, which is also a vital step to ensuring there is no takeover of your environment from some of these hostile and malicious attacks. And of course, I think may have been mentioned about privileged access management, PAM, as we normally call it, which is an infosec solution which allows privileged users to access certain level of information, a combination, of course, of processes, people, and technology. So some of these things are actually some of the bare minimums, or some of the things that, with the increase innovation, of course, also on the other end, there has been measures, cybersecurity measures that will be taken to ensure that you have a safe space, whether in your organization, at home, or in whichever areas. Um, I'd also mention about one of the things we do actually in our company is we do frequent audits, and look at your system access matrices, who has access to what, and what level of access do they have. And this frequent reviews enables you to kick out users that no longer need access to certain resources. And of course, importantly, is organizational awareness, conducting trainings and equipping users, or equipping end users with the proper know-how to identify, let's say, for instance, phishing emails or smishing emails and impersonation emails, which has been on the rise, especially during the pandemic period. Yeah. And I think the security landscape has changed tremendously as a result of some of these emerging technologies. Of course, with the need to provide a secure space, the need to, again, put your organization at very low risks of maybe losing data or being exposed. And I'd say this is a very good thing, so to speak.
Wow.
Eric.
Thank you, Bravin. Thank you, Bravin. That's so much wealth of knowledge, Manze, sharing with us. And now we move to our third panelist again, Mr. Seun Owoeye. And let me ask you once again, what factors could accelerate biometrics and data aggregation enablement for cybersecurity in the financial services sector? Welcome, Mr. Seun.
Right. Yeah, thank you very much, Eric. I would like to actually pick from Grace's last two comments around open innovation, and I will also have a blend from Bravine's submission around putting in place a kind of mechanism. And Grace rightly put it there very well. I mean, industry collaboration, stakeholder collaboration, and having a kind of open innovation, it's a very, very critical component of coming together to actually combat cyber threats. And let me just quickly briefly give you some of the things that has actually been implemented in the financial service space back in West Africa, in Nigeria. I'm sure a lot of us have actually seen what we call the biometric verification number, which is BVN. And it's an offshoot of an industry collaboration. It's an offshoot of an open innovation, and tremendously that it has significantly actually helped the financial service space to also combat cyber threats in the last 5 or 6 years that solution has actually been put in place. Something significant like that is also being expected to be implemented in Kenya in times to come. We are working closely with banks to actually see how we can have this kind of industry collaboration whereby, it's just like when the cards move from the normal mark stripe to chip and pin. We could see that the level of fraud and cyber threat reduced significantly. Immediately, we see the schemes moving from mark stripe to chip and pin. At least, if not totally eradicated, at least we've seen some significant, reduction in crime and frauds. So globally today, everybody is actually going into the biometric space to actually use what you have, and what you know. And I think what you have today is about something around your facials. And I think Bravine will also agree with me. What you have today is a critical component of what you have: your fingerprints, your facials, your facial, your iris, and all that. So these are a combination of what you have and what you know. Maybe your date of birth, maybe your last digit of your card pin and all that. So the combination of most of all these things, they are concerted effort that will require some sort of collaboration and open innovation. Let me borrow from Grace's use of word, and open innovation, to be able to facilitate and fast track any combat that needs to be done in the banking and financial service space. And generally, even if you look at it in the global space, everybody is saying bye-bye to password. I mean, that's the buzzword today in the cyber security space in financial services. Everybody is looking at how they can actually move from just usage of password to something of what you have and what you know. And I think biometrics capabilities is an enabler for every banking institution or financial service provider to actually look at critically, and also to learn from, and for East African countries to also learn in some other countries that have actually implemented and infused biometrics into their financial service. But I know South Africa is doing very well on this. I know Nigeria is doing very well on this, and I know Kenya is also, going in that direction in a few years to come. There have been a lot of stakeholder engagement and collaboration that are actually ongoing, and it will also be good for us to see that to come to fruition. Just to recap also what I've said, if you look at today, the social engineering piece I mentioned earlier on, a lot of banks today are also, combining their fingerprinting capabilities on mobile phones to also create access into mobile banking apps of when consumer is setting up. Now, this also help as much as possible to use what you have to also be able to create some sort of safeguards to ensure that fraudsters might not have access to your accounts. Over and above, they having access to either your date of birth, which is publicly available, or your mobile phone number, or anything that you didn't even expect those fraudsters to actually have. So a lot of institutions are also having a combination of mobile fingerprinting capability before you can actually authorize transactions, before you can get access to your banking app, a banking platform. So all these things are actually what I will see as market forces that are also trying to reshape how the cybersecurity landscape is being viewed from banking and financial services space. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you once again, Mr. Seun, for sharing your experiences in Nigeria. Yeah, and really, it is really interesting to learn that the how immense and how huge maybe investment you've made to ensure that you in the financial sector in Nigeria you collaborate and you have a way of approaching these challenges that you do face. And this takes us to our last panelist, Miss Grace Vihenda, once again. And let me ask you, what are the pros and cons of open innovation? Please share with us.
Thank you very much, Eric. Number one, the advantages include doubles innovation success rate, which means that when you're doing closed innovation, it is documented that you have about a 40% success rate of the things that you're trying to implement. With open innovation, you get double of that, which I think is a very strong attribute. And then this is just because you have more ideas that are coming into your innovation funnel. And since you have more ideas coming in, you have greater chances of success. Number two, you end up getting higher quality solutions. And the simple reason is that you're having a greater pool of knowledge that you're getting from all the partners that you're collaborating with. So eventually the quality of your solutions is much higher. There's less rework, there's more productivity. Number three, I would like to mention higher speed of innovation, simply because you're not reinventing the wheel. If one of your partners or even in the industry, you identify someone who already has done something, you don't have to create it from scratch. Yeah, if you're looking for a solution around cybersecurity, you don't have to create from scratch a cybersecurity team in your organization, but you can leverage on the strengths of your partners and other people to grow that. So it means you actually move a lot more faster than if you said, even as we can do what the competition is doing, let us start our own unit, and beat them at it. It will take much longer in terms of your speed of innovation. And then it accelerates growth for the organization because you're collaborating, you're forming new partnerships. So a lot of growth comes about in terms of your acquisition of customers, reduction of costs. And then the last one that I want to mention, there's much more, but the last one I want to mention is that it helps you to nurture an innovation culture within your organization. And this comes in that interaction and collaborating with others. You get to learn new things that you're not doing. For example, if you're collaborating with startups are really good to collaborate with because their antennas are always up. They have to make it. And because they really have to make it, they're all in, they're focused, they're looking at what their competition is doing, how the industry trends are moving, how the customer is changing. While if you're in an established organization, it's an established organization usually has like blinkers. You're only focused on operations, focused on how do we increase revenue. So you forget to look around your environment and where you can get some really good solutions. So it helps you to nurture innovation culture internally. So it serves well for you as an organization and even for the people that you're partnering with. That said, there are also disadvantages of doing this. But the good thing is the disadvantages can be leveraged by proper mitigation. So for example, number one, it is difficult to create a framework that works for open innovation, depending on how your organization is structured, especially if your organization is very bureaucratic and very traditional. You'll find that open innovation is not working very well for you. If, for example, everything has to go through a rigorous procurement process where you have to figure out, so it kind of chokes innovation. So it may mean that as an organization, you have to look at changing some of your processes and mindsets so that you're able to accommodate open innovation. Number two, there's increased complexity when it comes to the innovation processes. So here you see, you're not just dealing with internal stuff, but you're dealing with partners from other organizations. And it means you have a lot of moving parts. sometimes we may not agree on some things. Sometimes we'll have to compromise on, for example, the innovation process or how you want to do things, because now you're working with other people and you don't have full autonomy of the innovation process. The other one is you might actually run into some legal risks, around intellectual property or confidentiality. Some confidential information has been leaked. And so you have to really create a strong legal framework in terms of the agreements that you come up with for the partners that you're working with. And then there's a risk of losing competitive advantage if important information of your organization leaks. Like, for example, very pertinent information about some of your strategic plans gets to leak to your competitors, and then they use that against you. So that's also is a strong risk. And then you have loss of overall control of the innovation process. A lot of things may be outside of your control. So sometimes you get to lose the control of the innovation process itself. And here, what you do to mitigate is you just have to make sure that you have a very clear agreement from the onset with your partners, so that you don't run into disagreements or legal risks. Yeah, so that's what I would mention for now, but also insist that as much as there are disadvantages that really could take you down as an organization, the advantages far outweigh all the disadvantages that I've mentioned. And the kind of solutions that you come up with will take you so much longer than what the disadvantages could do. Back to you, Eric. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Now it comes to the end of our panel questions. And thank you so much, eminent panelists, for sharing your ideas with us. And it has been an interesting one. I can see Roger is here. I know we are behind schedule. And maybe before I get to the next step, maybe giving back the mic, I would love to share with you, maybe it's like for like 2 minutes. As I said before, initially I said that I work for the National Kenya Computer Incident Response Team. That is the point of contact for cybersecurity matters in the country. And how we do this is that we collaborate. As what I've heard from every speaker today is that cybersecurity is like a multi-stakeholder collaboration to handle incidents, cybersecurity incidents, to handle these attacks and threats every other time. And us as national case that we do monitor cybersecurity threats, and we are able to offer advisory reports very early to our stakeholders and government agencies and other people we will collaborate with internationally and locally. And also we implement national cybersecurity policies and regulations to ensure that the cyberspace is safe. We also offer capacity building, like ensuring, like for example, right now we know most people are suffering the fraud, social engineering attacks that coming from the maybe as mobile service providers. That, for example, we say like we have Safaricom, we have Airtel, we have the other telecom, and you can see most of our citizens in Kenya here. Most of them, like they don't have that know-how of being able to secure or to even able to know that who is the authentic caller who is calling at them at that moment. We have spam messages that are coming up, people forwarding everyone every time now and then. People click links that that spam them and steal their credentials. So there's so much that we do to ensure that Kenya is safe, and also to ensure that everyone gets to understand that what is good for them and what is bad for them. So if I have a minute, we were to ask our audience whether there is at least one question to our panelists before we close. One of our audience maybe can ask a question from directed to one of the panelists, or anyone else can answer that, so that now we can get to close. Anyone, kindly welcome.
So, Eric, I don't see any questions popping up for any of the panelists, but in case we do, we'll go and
Yeah,
mail them to the panelist, and the panelists can answer them. All right.
sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah. That's okay.
Right. Thank you very much, Eric, for wonderfully moderating the panel. And thank you, dear panelists, Bravi, Seun, Grace, Emma, for sharing your valuable thoughts. We truly appreciate your presence here today. And we wish you a great rest of the day. Thank you all.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
very
Thank you very
much.
much.
Yeah.
You're
Bye.
Good
welcome.
evening to you. Okay, bye.
What an insightful, power-packed, and fruitful event the last day of the East Africa Hybrid Cloud Cybersecurity Summit 2022 has turned out to be. I'm sure we all have learned a lot from what we heard today and yesterday on the insights, the trends, the solutions, predictions, experiences, and for what lies ahead for the East Africa geography. Feel free to email us or drop us any questions you may have in the chat section after the event too. We will be glad to assist accordingly. With this, dear audience, we have successfully reached the end of an insightful and fruitful completion of the East Africa Hybrid Cloud and Cybersecurity Summit 2022. Let me quickly take this opportunity to thank our partners and organizers, Trex event in partnership with our technology partner, Oracle, Platinum partner, SUSE, Gold partner, Manage Engine, and strategic partner, MBCom Technologies. And last but not the least, I want to thank you, all our dear delegates, for joining us today and yesterday in great numbers and making the East Africa Hybrid Cloud and Cybersecurity Summit 2022 a massive success. We witnessed top-notch power-packed keynote speeches and interactive panel discussions by subject matter experts from leading ministries, public entities, financial institutions, and tech industry sharing their valuable time and unmatched knowledge. Lastly, without your continued support, we would never be able to put on such an insightful event like this. So thank you all for joining us. See you in our next Mega Cloud Data and Cybersecurity edition real soon. This is Roger Dawson Bridget signing out. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a nice evening and stay safe. On behalf of the entire Trex team, take care, bye bye, and have a great evening.